Automatonophobia. It's a phobia you likely never heard of, but you may likely know the uncanny valley. Hell, I've been talking about it for many times in my videos, but this will be the last time I'll give its explanation. It's a region where one's feelings of unsettled and familiarity mix into uncanniness as a negative emotion response towards entities that supposedly depict as human. Entities like police sketches and computer-generated composites, wax figures and mannequins, robots and animatronics, and statues. Automatonophobia, the fear of all those mentioned. In this video, we will primarily look at some of the world's strangest and scariest statues. Some statues intersect with other phobias like megalophobia, fear of large structures, arachnophobia, fear of spiders, coulrophobia, fear of clowns, and submechanophobia, fear of submerged human-made objects underwater. From the beautifully crafted to the utterly bizarre, and even the most hauntingly disturbing. Join me and my friends, Xenobox and Monkey Booty, as we explore around the globe of some of the most strangest and scariest statues.
Feltpve, Budapest, Hungary. During the 2014 Art Market Budapest Festival, designer Erwin Hervé Laurent revealed his biggest work yet. Feltpve, or ripped up. Made out of polystyrene, the sculpture is displayed in Sechenye Square, on the grounds of Gresham Palace. The sculpture depicts a giant rising from the earth with a struggled look. Kinda like me when I'm getting out of bed in the morning. The sculpture was a collaboration with Irvin and the Gallery Out of Home, stating that there are two interpretations. The creation has several meanings, such as the symbolism of freedom, the desire to break free, the curiosity, and the dynamics of development. After the festival, the sculpture appeared in Ulm, Germany, to celebrate the 1989 revolution. Unfortunately, as cool as this sculpture was, the artists have deemed it temporary, and as of right now, if you look through Google Maps, you will no longer be able to find this sculpture.
Gulliver's Kingdom statue, Imanchi Prefecture, Japan. Gulliver's Kingdom was once a theme park that was built in the 1990s by the Japanese government in order to boost the economy at the time. The park itself was based off of the 1726 novel Gulliver's Travel by Jonathan Swift. Unfortunately, the park only lasted less than 5 years, closing down in October of 2001, leaving it abandoned. Within the abandoned park were many rides consumed by nature, but only one area stood out amongst the rest. Nestled within the park was a giant statue of Gulliver, tied down from his hair similar to the iconic scene in Lilliput. There were many reasons that the park had closed. Some would attribute it to the park losing its overall popularity. Perhaps it had something to do with the park being located near the infamous Aokigahara Forest, better known as the Suicide Forest. Not only this, but the park is also located near the Kamikui-Kushi village, home of the infamous Doomsday Cult headquarters and nerve gas facility, Aum Shinrikyo. This abandonment had earned Gulliver's Kingdom the rank of the 6th creepiest place on Earth. You could imagine the unsettling scene as Gulliver simply laid there with his eyes open as the rest of the kingdom was overtaken by nature. The statue would watch as his park rotted away, and his only visitors would come to see the deserted space, with some even spraying graffiti on him. The uncanny statue's suffering subsided when in 2007, the entire park was demolished along with the statue itself. The only remaining evidence of this creepy statue is the scars left behind on the ground, which serve as a reminder of one of the creepiest theme parks in the world, which housed one of the largest and creepiest statues as well.
Maman, Oslo, Norway. If you have arachnophobia, you may not like what you're about to see. This is Maman, the world's largest spider sculpture, measuring over 30 feet and 33 feet wide, and made of bronze stainless steel. Created in 1999 by Louise Bourgeois, The sculpture picks up the theme of the arachnid that Bourgeois has first contemplated in a small ink and charcoal drawing in 1947, continuing with their 1996 Moscow sculpture, Spider, a very similar sculpture like Maman, but this one is smaller and is in a glass cage. The Maman statue apparently alludes to the strength of Louise's mother, Josephine, who passed away when Louise was 21 to an unknown illness. The spider is an ode to my mother. She was my best friend. Like a spider, my mother was a weaver. My family was in the business of tapestry restoration, and my mother was in charge of the workshop. Like spiders, my mother was very clever. Spiders are friendly presences that eat mosquitoes. We know that mosquitoes spread diseases and are therefore unwanted, so spiders are helpful and protective, just like my mother. The Maman spider was moved around the world a lot of times and is currently in Oslo, Norway since April 24th of this year, so check it out if you can.
Christ of the Sailors, Cora Point, Malta. Sculptor Alfred Camilleri Cacci was commissioned to make this statue in honor of the visit of Pope John Paul II to Malta in 1990. Originally placed near the waters of St. Paul's Islands, 10 years later it was moved to Cora Point, due to the water's visibility being too low. Molinere Underwater Sculpture Park, The Lime, Grenada. Submerged at around 5 to 8 meters in the Molinere Beauséjour Marine Protected Area, a collection of statues lay there covered in coral. In 2004, Hurricane Ivan passed through Molinere Bay, causing heavy damage to its coral reefs. In 2006, Jason DeCaris Taylor's underwater garden was built, offering a surprisingly bizarre new home for marine life around it. Seeing as the statues were made with pH-neutral cement and also textured throughout, it allows coral polyps to cling on to the statue without any issue. The park contains various sculptures and statues, though two of them are more well-known than the others. Those being the vicissitudes, which depict a ring of people holding hands facing away from each other. According to the official website of the sculptures, cast from children with diverse backgrounds, they are a symbol of unity and resilience. They are an example of how we are inscribed and formed by the nutrients we absorb. However, locally it was widely interpreted as a tribute to slavery, due to the structural connections resembling shackles and the proximity to the Atlantic Ocean and the Middle Passage. Another sculpture within the park is called the Lost Correspondent. It portrays a man sitting down with a typewriter, surrounded by newspaper articles from the 1970s, with some of them reporting stories about Grenada's history. The Lost Correspondent supposedly reflects on how communications are rapidly changing.
Alyonka, Voronezh Oblast, Russia. In the southwest of Russia, partly borders Ukraine, is the Voronezh Oblast, where you'll hear a tale in the village called Alyanovka. The tale goes is that a girl named Alyonka looked for refuge and led her fellow people to a creek and advised to establish a village here, before she was tragically killed by a bandit named Kudyar. Her fellow people decided to name the village in honor of the girl. Centuries later, in 2020, as the people celebrated the village's 250th anniversary, the statue was unveiled, revealing the nightmarish depiction of Alyonka with a ghoulish look. Many memes and mass protests demanded the statue to be demolished, and thankfully, it later did, and was auctioned for around $35,000. I can't find the exact person behind the original Alyonka statue, but 2 years later, in 2022, a newer and rather elegant-looking Alyonka was installed, likely the same spot. I'd like to personally thank the sculpture behind the statue for replacing the old one.
Scary Lucy, New York, USA. One of the most prolific female comedians is Lucille Ball. The older generation may know her from her iconic black and white series I Love Lucy, which aired between 1952 and 1957. The show was so well received that many considered it to be one of the most iconic sitcoms of TV history. That's why, in 2009, about 20 years after Lucille's passing, a bronze statue of her character Lucy was unveiled by Dave Poulin in her hometown of Celeron, New York. At the unveiling, many of Lucille's fans who were present began chanting Lucy as the statue was being revealed. The chanting had stopped once they were able to gaze at the statue. Some commented that the statue looked scary and gave it the nickname Scary Lucy. Fans and locals disliked the bronze sculpture, with the artist himself stating his disappointment, sharing that this was far from his best work. Other critics of the work stated that the statue resembled Steve Buscemi more than it did Lucy. It was not until 6 years later, in 2015, when fans began a Facebook campaign to get rid of the eyesore of the statue. The campaign also searched for another artist who was up to the challenge to make a more appropriate statue. Out of the 64 sculptors, Carolyn Palmer was chosen, stating, "I not only want to portray the playful, animated, and spontaneous Lucy, but also the glamorous Hollywood icon. I just hope that all of Lucy's fans are pleased and that Lucille Ball herself would have enjoyed this image of her." Carolyn's Lucy statue was revealed to much adoration by the late comedian's fans by giving it the nickname Lovely Lucy. This name is the polar opposite of its predecessor, Scary Lucy. However, an admittedly bizarre decision was made in which Scary Lucy was moved a mere 75 yards from its original location, allowing both statues to be viewed. A strange decision indeed.
The Cadaver tomb of Rene de Chalon, Bar-le-Duc, France. In the church of Saint Etienne le Roux in Bar-le-Duc, France, you can find the creepy depiction of Rene de Chalon, Prince of Orange. At the age of 25, the prince met his demise during the siege of Saint-Dizier in 1544. Instead of commemorating in the conventional form of a heroic figure, it is believed that either his wife or Rene himself requested a portrayal that defied norms. This portrayal presented him not like other statue figures, but as a life-size skeletal figure with exposed muscles and strips of skin hanging from his body, while his left hand raised up, holding the prince's actual heart inside a heart-shaped container. Crafted in 1547, 3 years after the Prince of Orange's death, by sculptor Ligier Ricciard, a pupil of Michelangelo, the white stone sculpture, known as the Cadaver tomb of Rene de Chalon, is among the world's most fascinating and macabre pieces of art within this style. Historical records stated that the heart was stolen during the French Revolution in 1789, and the heart is definitely gone for good, yet the statue still remains.
Device to root out evil, Mallorca, Spain. Device to root out evil is a sculpture created by Dennis Oppenheim. The sculpture itself depicts a New England-style church upside down. Originally titled Church, its location was initially going to be located at Church Street, New York City, though due to the controversy, the name was changed. Stanford University approved the purchase of the sculpture in 2003, but later vetoed the decision, deeming it inappropriate for the campus. It was subsequently displayed in various locations, including Vancouver and Calgary, before finally being installed in Plaza de la Puerta de Santa Catalina in Palma, Mallorca.
Clownerina, California, USA. In Venice, California, passing by the Binoculars building, you will be faced with something even more wildish. The ballerina clown, also known as Clownerina. Built in 1988 by Jonathan Borofsky, the statue was made for a local art museum using aluminum, steel, and paints and fiberglass. Jonathan's intent was to capture a festive street performer mashed up with a formal classical ballet dancer. During the afternoons, the Clownerina's leg will slowly kick up in the air to simply act like it's dancing, but it will stop working some time ago. Now the dancer stays still, watching over the busy traffic and pedestrians with its uncanny look.
Headington Shark, Oxford, England. The Headington Shark, also known as Untitled 1986, is a rooftop sculpture located in Headington, Oxford, England. The sculpture is of a large shark that had lodged itself headfirst into a roof of a house. Bill Heine, a local radio presenter, had commissioned John Buckley to create the sculpture on its home. Initially, the statue was put up without permission and served as a piece of protest art. This was to protest the use of American warplanes to drop bombs in Libya in retaliation for attacks on American troops. Heine was inspired to create the sculpture as a protest against the bombing and statement against nuclear weapons. He saw the shark as a metaphor for falling bombs. The shark sparked controversy when it first appeared, and the Oxford City Council attempted to have it removed on the grounds of safety and due to the lack of planning permission. Alternatively, the council offered a change of location at a local swimming pool. This, however, did not happen as the shark gained massive support from the locals. In order to preserve the sculpture, Bill Heine's son bought the house. Unfortunately, Heine was diagnosed with leukemia and passed away in 2019. Ever since then, the property had been operated as an Airbnb guest house.
Freedom Monument, Pennsylvania, USA. Creator of the Freedom Sculpture, Zenos Ferdakis said, "I wanted to create a sculpture almost anyone, regardless of their background, could look at and instantly recognize that it is about the idea of struggling to break free. This sculpture is about the struggle for achievement of freedom through the creative process." According to Zenos' website, the Freedom Monument depicts a story that is told from left to right. The composition develops from left to right, beginning with a kind of mummy/death-like captive figure locked into its background. In the second frame, the figure, reminiscent of Michelangelo's rebellious slave, begins to stir and struggle to escape. The figure in the third frame has torn himself from the wall that held him captive and is stepping out, reaching for freedom. In the fourth frame, the figure is entirely free, victorious, arms stretched out, completely away from the wall and from the grave space he left behind. He evokes an escape from his own mortality. You can find that the artist has actually hidden some details within the divot in the wall. If you want to take a closer look, the monument itself is located on 16th and Vine Street in Philadelphia. The Awakening, Maryland, USA. If you're ever in National Harbor, Maryland, and happen to be walking across the Potomac River, you may have come across something huge buried within the earth. And unlucky for you, you just woke it up. The Awakening is a 72-foot tall statue depicting a human giant buried underground struggling to rise above. The 5-piece sculpture was created in 1980 by J. Seward Johnson Jr. as part of Washington, D.C.'s 11th Annual Sculpture Conference and was first installed at Haynes Point in East Potomac Park. In 2007, a real estate developer, Milton Peterson, purchased the sculpture for over $700,000 for his installation at his new National Harbor development in Maryland. So, in February of that year, the giant finally freed himself and went on his way to National Harbor, just to be buried again in the man-made beach besides the Potomac River, and has stayed there for a few years. During his time there, people have come to visit the giant to take pictures of him, but at times, the sculpture has been visited by snow and heavy storms, causing the beach to be flooded, making the illusion of the giant raising against the water. 2 years later, J. Seward decided to create the giant's twin, making an exact copy for him to be buried in Chesterfield, Missouri. After the passing of J. Seward in March of 2020, another copy of the Awakening Giant was unveiled at J. Seward's Sculpture Park, Grounds for Sculpture, home to nearly 300 of contemporary sculptures done by Seward and many other artists around the world, where people can visit and discover new artworks and artists such as J. Seward's Daydream sculpture that is next to the Awakening Giant and artist Red Groom's Henry Moore in a Sheep Meadow. Where the fuck am I and why is there so many sheep here? So if you're ever in National Harbor, Chesterfield, or in Grounds for Sculpture, why not visit the Awakening Giant? He might just need some help getting off the ground again.
The Mothman statue, West Virginia, USA. Mothman is considered one of the most beloved cryptids and most feared in the US. Dating back to the 60s, sightings were reported in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, of a half-human, half-moth-like creature soaring across the sky, scaring the residents and animals. Afterwards, the Mothman vanished, never to be returned again, and so the world simply forgot about the cryptid. At least people thought. Jumping far into the early 2000s, a film was in the works that was based on a 1975 investigative book written by John Keel called The Mothman Prophecies, which was released under the same name in 2002. Charles Humphreys, a longtime resident of Point Pleasant and even tried hunting down the Mothman in the 60s, realized the film had made the city newsworthy again, and so he had an idea. Quoted, "All at once, it just hit me," Charles said. Point Pleasant needed a Mothman. And so he contacted a guy named Bob Roach, a retired welder who made art out of stainless steel. "Bob, you make that Mothman and you'll be known around the world." And so he did. After going around town, interviewing residents on the description on the cryptid, Bob took to his garage and built the Mothman statue for about a year, being unveiled in 2003. To the surprise of just about everyone in town, Mothman proved to be popular, just as Charles said he would. People started traveling to Point Pleasant to see Bob's statue, so many that a Mothman museum opened across the street in 2006, and the statue itself became a focal point of Point Pleasant's annual Mothman Festival. Mothman was described to be symbolize crucial aspects of American culture and history. Bob Roach passed away in 2015, But despite Bob's death, Charles, who knew Bob's dedication to the statue's longevity, affirmed its enduring quality. He quoted, "I didn't lie to Bob. He'll be known around the world forever."
Elon Goat, Texas, USA. Picture this. You're in traffic after a long day of work, and all of a sudden, in the next lane, you see a giant goat with Elon Musk's head attached to it instead of its own, riding a rocket barreling towards you on the back of a semi-truck. How would you react? Personally, I'd laugh if it weren't so hideous. However, it begs the question, why does this thing even exist? We all know Elon Musk had made major contributions in the crypto space, so much so that he amassed a massive following of fanboys trying to make the next Bitcoin. This brings us to Richard Latimer and Ashley Sansalon, two crypto geeks with the idea to honor both their idol and promote their own digital token. Thus, in January of 2022, EGT, or Elon Goat token, was born alongside a $600,000 project to pay homage to Elon Musk. As previously mentioned, this project's main goal was to honor Elon's contributions to cryptocurrency. They saw him as the GOAT, and as such, they decided to turn him into one, a 20-foot tall, 30-foot wide stainless steel one riding atop a rocket. They had hoped that in doing so, they could have their gift accepted by Musk, as well as generate hype for their NFT project as well. EGT co-founder Richard Latimer had stated, "We threw the idea together over a long night. It was a 3 a.m. idea with a long conversation behind it." You can tell a lot of thought went into this. Latimer even went as far as saying, "We dedicated the statue to Elon because he stepped in for crypto at a good point and blew everything up. With everything he has done with cryptocurrency such as Doge and Baby Doge, and a few other coins, we decided why not do the same thing, but really go out there and go above and beyond to bring something to him." I guess no one told him how Elon has sold all his Dogecoin, essentially causing the currency's value to plummet. By late 2022, the project was complete, and the statue not only had Elon's head, but it also wore a Dogecoin necklace and had a tattoo under its eye of $8, referring to the cost of Twitter's blue checkmark after Elon Musk took over. The entire plan for the goat statue was for it to be driven around Austin, Texas to attend parties and celebrations before bringing it to the Tesla Gigafactory on Thanksgiving, or what they called Goatsgiving. Of course, during this trip, there were many people who disliked the project. Let's be honest, this is a stupid 6-ton metal sculpture that barely looks like a goat parading around the streets of Austin. The sheer stupidity of the statue didn't stop the EGT founders to claim that all the haters were against capitalism and Elon. So what even happened to the statue? At the time of research, it's clear that the publicity stunt was largely ignored by the Musk man himself. After that failed attempt, the statue continued to be driven around the state and across the country to promote the token and the NFTs. But as always, just like in Austin, the hype died down and barely anyone talked about it anymore. Fans of the sculpture were disappointed in Musk not accepting the gift immediately on Goatsgiving, with some believing that he sort of accepted it because the goat was not immediately removed from the Austin Gigafactory. It wasn't up until recently in July when supporters realized Elon liked the tweet that features the goat statue, but that was all. It's unknown if this year Elon would finally accept this bizarre gift of the Elon Goat.
Blue Mustang, Colorado, USA. Commissioned in 1992 for $300,000, it was not erected until 2008. The Blue Mustang statue is a cast fiberglass sculpture of a bright blue with red glowing-eyed Mustang, located at the Denver International Airport. With its ominous red glowing eyes, people who have touched down to Denver or visited the statue up close gave it a nickname, Blucifer. The statue is known for its strange and dark related events, and also is the only statue on this list that killed its own sculptor, Luis Jimenez. Luis was a Chicano sculptor and graphic artist and was known for portraying Mexican, Southwestern, and Mexican-American general themes in his public commissions, like his 1976's Progress 2 in Austin and 1980's Vaquero in Houston, Texas. You may notice what the Vaqueros or Cowboys is mounting a very similar horse to Blucifer. Another similarity is his 1997's 8-foot Mustang. Fun fact, Mustang was modeled after Luis's own Appaloosa Blue Roan stallion, Blackjack, which upon thinking about it, Blackjack would also serve as the model for Blue's Mustang. So how did Blue Mustang kill Luis? Well, years prior to the statue's unveiling in February of 2008, on June 13, 2006, Luis was alone in his studio, rushing to complete the sculpture. He reportedly used a rope to hoist a section of the sculpture, when suddenly the hoist broke, and the 9,000-pound piece fell on 66-year-old Luis. slicing an artery in his leg, and pinned him to the ground, unable to escape. He bled to death alone in his New Mexico studio. After his death, friends and family debated on whether to leave the sculpture incomplete and to destroy it, or to complete it, to honor his legacy, and perhaps also to avoid having to pay the city of Denver for failure to deliver on a contract. They decided to complete the sculpture, which was done with the help of Luis's staff, family, and professional lowrider painters, Camilo Nunes and Richard Lovato. The finished sculpture was sent to California for assembly and then shipped to Denver. Blue Mustang was unveiled at Denver International Airport on February 11 of 2008. As I said earlier, the statue is known for its strange and dark related events. Like how it killed Luis before he can fully complete it. The sculpture has been both widely disparaged and praised. Locals have taken to calling the statue Lucifer, Satan's Stallion, and Diablo. The most strangest and darkest event was when in 2020, an armed man was seen shooting up the statue before turning his attention to nearby traffic, where he began firing upon passing cars, before ending it all by a self-inflicted shot to the head. Died upon arrival to a hospital. The motives and identity of the man remains unknown. To this day, many people demanded for the statue to be removed, and many created bizarre conspiracy theories that the sculpture was some entrance to secret underground tunnels, like in the Netflix show Inside Job. Rest in peace to Luis. This is another favorite statue of mine, and I highly recommend his other artworks as well. Finally, we've reached the end. Back at home base. I hope you enjoy this sort of roller coaster ride. If you're about to comment saying we missed a few, don't worry. We will soon come back for another trip to find more of the world's strangest and scariest statues. Thanks for watching, and let me introduce you to some of my friends.
Hello, I'm Xenobox, your friendly neighborhood gamer and egg connoisseur.
And now, introducing Monkey Booty!
Monkey?
And as for Monkey Booty, he is a variety horror streamer on Twitch that uploads creepypasta readings on YouTube and is currently working on SCP content, so be sure to check him out. He currently goes live on Saturdays 4 PM Eastern Time.